We are going to go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to have everybody hanging out with us today for the Data Science Lab. My name is Libby. I'm a data community manager here at Posit, and I am joined by Isabella and Daniel. Isabella, would you like to say hello? Isabella is here from Posit.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabella. I'm on the DevRel team at Posit. I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining.
Hooray! Daniel, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone. I'm also on the DevRel team at Posit, and I'll see everyone in the Discord chat.
Yeah, Dan's going to be our Discord gremlin today. And I'm joined by Marcos Huerta. Marcos, would you like to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everybody. I'm Marcos. Happy to join Libby and everyone today.
Yeah, we are getting together every Tuesday at the Data Science Lab to be a much more open, transparent, screen sharing, messy place to hang out with your friends and code. This will be like a, hey, my friend wants to show me how he does something, and we're going to code together. What this means is this is a place for you to stop and ask questions, to say, I can't see your screen. Your text is too small. Wait, slow down, do that again. Or can you explain that a little bit more so I understand it? This is not a presentation or a talk. This is us like hanging out and coding together. And I really, really hope that you are open to asking questions and learning things today. And if you are someone who knows a lot about the topic that we're covering, I hope that you will share your knowledge and your resources and extra tidbits about what we're talking about in the chat, because that is what this whole thing is about. This is a space for everybody. It doesn't matter what your years of experience are, it doesn't matter what background you come from. You are in the right place. And the Discord server in the Data Science Lab channel is the place to be. So if you just join the Discord server, you can head to like the general channel. There's a little message saying that we're going to be in the Data Science Lab channel. You can click that channel heading name and it will take you directly in there. And I see that we're joined in the Discord chat by some alumni of the Data Science Lab. Isabella's in there talking, saying that she's just here for the mechanical keyboards. We might talk about mechanical keyboards today. We're going to try not to. Let's go ahead
I'm
and get into
ready. I'm
it.
always
Yeah,
ready.
I
So
know this is dangerous. Marcus, I just put together one of my keyboards and several of my keys don't work. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to take it back apart.
I
Okay.
bent some pin. I bent some pins when I was doing
Yep.
my hot swap keyboard. I bent some pins, and I didn't realize how important it was to make sure the pins were aligned. So that was a real problem.
Yep.
Don't
There's
bend your
some
pins.
foam in the bottom of my keyboard that's messing up the pins. So I'm gonna go rip my keyboard apart and take the foam out. Okay, everybody, let's get started. What we're gonna talk about today is the guts of websites. So when we want to get data from websites, we are often looking at web scraping using like Beautiful Soup or rvest, maybe rvest plus Selenium. By the way, rvest has a new like read HTML live function, which means you don't have to use Selenium all the time, which is cool. But there's also a more manual alternative to this, is an API call that's not an official API, right? There are some websites that have official APIs. They're great. We can call on them and grab data. Most websites aren't going to have an API that's structured for the public to use, right? But that doesn't mean that that website's not receiving data through API calls. That's what Marcus and I are going to be digging through today. So I say we go ahead and get started. Marcus, can you give us a rundown of what we are going to talk about today at a high level? Because I think it's
Yes.
mostly the guts of how
Yes.
API calls happen on the website and Postman.
Yeah. So like opening statements. Yeah, Libby said it very well. Like I think, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, most websites or a lot of websites rendered server side, right? They would do a bunch of stuff on the server and then your computer would retrieve a HTML table or whatever from the server. And that's what you could scrape that with Beautiful Soup, right? You can do a request.get or HTTR and R. My R is very, I haven't used R in ages, but you can basically pull that in and then you've got this basically giant string of HTML and various tools like Beautiful Soup or other things can parse those tables and extract the data, right? Um, I don't know when the trend started, but now a lot of times what happens is the server is not sending you HTML. The server is sending you data, and JavaScript running on your computer is taking that data and building the pieces of the website for you. So the table you see on a website is not, if you went and like curled that from the command line or if you request.get or whatever, programmatically with some retrieval code that does not process JavaScript, you would just get a bunch of JavaScript tags and you wouldn't actually have a table, right? So
Right.
there's two reasons to do these private APIs. One is because like it's cleaner and better than trying to do beautiful soup, and two is sometimes beautiful soup won't work, right? Because like unless you'd have to like maybe save the source from a web browser or something to kind of get that generated table. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple. I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but we'll look at a couple of websites. We will use the developer tools, and either I'm going to probably mostly be showing Safari, but I'll also show off Firefox and Chrome briefly. You're going to be using those developer tools, looking for what is your browser actually going to get, and seeing if any of that is JSON. And if it is JSON, then we will figure out you can obviously save that data directly, and if you just want to play with it. But if you want to get it the next time, we'll show you some tricks to maybe getting some code that will let you kind of hit that over and over again. Another big caveat is like this is all fun if you're just trying to do some analysis, like, hey, I really want this data from this baseball game or from this government website or whatever. Do not build a business around like the tools we're gonna. I do not like because eventually, if you're hitting this thing, like if you hit it once every now and then, no one's never going to notice. They're going to think you're a web browser. If you're like banging some private API, just pounding away at it, like with like a cron job every minute, like they're eventually going to figure that out and probably block your IP address. So like, don't do that. Don't build
Yeah.
out like some big. Don't think, aha, now I have a great business idea. I'm going to scrape this weird API and do this. Don't do that, um, because they will probably eventually block you. Was that a good overview?
Yes, I think that's great. I think the takeaway for me is like with great sneaky Snoopy power comes great
Yeah.
responsibility because if you like being able to sneakily grab data off of an API and then you ping it incessantly for like weeks on end, you will ruin it for all of us
I mean,
and
most of these things will
they'll
have
lock
rate.
it down.
Most of these things will have rate. A lot of these sites will, not all of them, but a lot of them will have rate limits built into the API that are kind of designed for what a human would do clicking around the website. So if you start
Right.
using, request.get or curl on it, a gazillion times, like you might start getting like, not 200 responses. You'll get a 400, you'll get a 500, what I forget what the code is, but you'll get some HTTP code that's basically like you've hit the rate limit.
You'll get
And
something other
that is,
than a
yeah,
success.
yeah. And that happened to me recently. I forget what I was trying to do, but I was starting to hit rate limits. So,
All
uh,
right, well, let's do it. Let's
yeah.
do some screen
All
sharing.
right. So let me
And for
share it.
anybody who's hearing curl and wondering what that is, we'll talk a little bit about that. Um,
All
and I
right.
would love to hear in the chat what your experiences are with web scraping because I use this method that Marcus uses. Marcus taught me this and he like fielded a ton of my like, where do I find this questions like years ago. Um, because I hate web scraping. If I dive right into web scraping, I don't always know what I'm doing. This glimpse in the background, if you do web scraping or use like Hitter to call APIs, this will help you understand more what you are doing when you're doing that.
Yeah. See, another R package that I mispronounced. You said hitter, and I did not know that's how you pronounce HTTR. I would just think HTTR. Um,
Isn't there like a little person hitting a baseball on the sticker or
that makes
something?
sense. That shows I haven't seen the hex, I guess. All right, so here we are at Baseball Savant. I'm in Safari. I will feel free to follow along on your own web browser. Um, and so, it's got this nice, cool site. This is like a particular game, right? We've got pitchers and exit velocities, all this cool data. So these are all kind of tables. This is how this is all getting constructed with JavaScript. So the first thing we do is you want to inspect element. And if you were in a different web browser, you might want to do something differently. But you want to kind of go into so a lot of this is like source code. But what we actually want in Safari anyway is the sources tab. So one thing you will usually have to do is refresh because you want to get fresh requests.
Yeah, you
Come
can do
over
Command
here.
R for the refresh too, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh yes, thank you. Now, sometimes you might see in Safari, sometimes you might see it what's called an XHR request. That's frequently a thing you want to look for. But sometimes they don't put them, they don't show up as XHR. They show up as just fetches. So we click on these and oh look, what is this? It's JSON. So here we see trending players, we see some JSON data that is making well, nothing on this page apparently, but that is some data. We got a schedule here with a bunch of stuff in it. We've got this GF, which probably stands for game feed, and that has a ton of data. Look at all this JSON, right? So that's pretty exciting. And then we have some other smaller data set. And then, these actually are telling you what they are, pitcher yearly averages, right? So this is the start of everything. Now, the first thing you can do is just, let's look at the game feed. And you can just, in Safari, you can just right click on this and save it. I think Safari is the only one where you can right click and save a file, though Libby was telling me that she thought that was a way to do it. And
Yeah, when I'm on Windows and I'm using Chrome, I can right click and save object for
so I'm going to save
JSON
this as gamefeed.json.
or
I'm
copy it.
going to say gamefeed data lab so I don't can find this file later. And then let's open up VS Code and ignore all of my projects there. And let's just open up this one file.
Can everybody see Marcus's screen with the text size and everything? We can attempt
I will make
to
things bigger. Yeah, someone
zoom in a
holler at
little
me.
bit.
Someone who's reading the chat, tell me. Everyone can see everything down my computer right now. So I really.
I love Marcus's um, Christmas lights. I know I'm distracting us from the point here, but look at his Christmas lights all around his computer.
That is the app called Festivus. If anyone wants to buy that, look at this, 100,000 lines of JSON. So
Ooh,
it has an app called Festivus, which is a Mac app if you want to decorate for the holidays. All right, so here's this giant, and I formatted it, and I'll maybe make the font bigger. So here's this giant JSON file, right? And this is a whole other dark art of trying to figure out, like in these nested JSON files, like how do you want to get out what you want? Like, for example, it looks like we've got the scoreboard is a key, and then we've got a list, sorry, a dictionary, but then within that dictionary, we've got a list of dictionaries. So, I don't have time to go through it. We got some win probabilities by inning. This is all pretty cool, but like you can see that it's kind of buried in here. Like this key is in stats, scoreboard. I mean, there's all these kind of keys kind of tucked away. So there's a whole dark art to like taking these JSON and trying to massage it into something you can turn into a data frame. Um, but that's probably a little bit beyond the scope. The point is there's a ton of data here, and maybe we want to play with this data, right? So the first thing you could do is just save it and load it into pandas or a data frame or polars or whatever. Um, I think what I want to do first is show like maybe you just want to get this data directly into your machine as opposed to kind of saving it as a file like I did. So again, in Safari, one thing we can do is right click, and this is definitely in all the other browsers. Copy as curl, right? So what is curl? Curl is this, right? Curl is, and I'll keep trying to make this bigger. Curl is just a
yeah, that's
command
bigger.
line program on Linux or Unix, and it just basically will download stuff, right? It will download the text or it'll stream that to you. If you type this into like a terminal in the Mac, it would just spit out all of the HTML. I'm sorry, all the JSON because we're hitting the actual API here. So this URL is the API, and these are a bunch of cookies and a bunch of various headers that you may or may not need. So you could just paste this into to your terminal and get some stuff out. In fact, I think I did that last time Libby and I were doing this. So let's just pop this in here. Um, well, let's copy this again and dump that in there. Don't worry about this. It's pretty mad. Why is it mad at me? Oh, it's binary output. That's interesting. Okay, well, ignore that. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. So here's the link, some refers, some cookies. So the real trick now, we don't want to be using curl command line stuff. We want Python or R, right? So this brings us to an app called Postman. Postman will really try and make you have an account. I always ignore this and use it without an account. Um, so I was doing this earlier when Livy and I demoed this. So I'm going to go to import. We're going to
Yeah, Postman really gets me.
paste
I
in.
thought for a long time I had to have an account, so I avoided it.
So I pasted in that curl. I mean, I can just slow down and do that again. See, it says paste curl to import, and then you paste it in, and now it has translated all of that into. Can I make this font bigger?
Yeah,
Everything is based on what's that thing called that VS Code is based on? Um,
I don't know.
I can't remember. Someone remembers. Anyways, based on the Command Plus works in this app too because it's also based on whatever that web framework is that makes all these apps. Anyway, so now what has it done? The params are just this. The params just means this question mark thing, which is some kind of identifier for the game, and then the headers are all those things we saw. And if we click send, we should get back a bunch of JSON. And here's the JSON that we saw, right?
Yes. And so those are like each of those little check marks. That was in our curl, each of those little dash lines that was like
Yes,
dash H something.
yes, exactly. And I'm trying to make this go away. Can I make this go away?
I think that's as small as it gets.
I'm trying to make it go away. Wait, what
But
about
that's
this?
okay.
Oh,
At
there we
least
go.
we can
I
see.
got rid of it.
Yeah, there we go. At least we can see your text. And also I heard Electron is what they're
Electron.
saying.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Yes. Well, Electron, they're both Electron apps, so Command Plus just worked in both of them because they're both basically the same thing under the hood. All right, so now we've got all this data, all this JSON data here. One thing you can do, one thing I like to do is I just start unchecking things. Like, does it really need this cookie, or is it going to get mad at me if will the request work without the cookie? The request still works without the cookie. Do I really need this like user string with all this Apple stuff? Pretending we're Safari. Yeah, it still works. Sometimes if you really need the refer, probably need this. Let's see, do we need it? No, we don't. So you can kind of start turning things off and seeing if the request still works or if it doesn't. Because sometimes you really need that cookie. It sets a session cookie and it won't work without it. It really needs the refer, whatever. Some of these things you don't want to turn off because it's telling it like what kind of data it accepts. So I usually leave the smaller ones alone. Um, Sometimes the cookie can be really important. For example, I have a little system by which I get some data off of the Kia website for my car, my electric car. The data's all there. The website only shows you like 4 columns, but if you do what I'm doing here, you can see like the real data structure. And so, but I can't access that without a cookie, right? So I have to get the cookies out if I want to download it. Anyway, this little button here, which is very hard to see, is the code button. And this is where it will turn this request that you imported into code, right? So Python request is what I'm going to copy because that's what I'm going to go show off in Jupyter here in a second. But you've also got, you've got everything. You've got PHP. You can go with, non-request Python if you want. Base Python. There's header. There's rcurl, right? And it'll just generate the code for you.
This is so
It's not that
cool.
complicated because it's really just a set of headers and a link. It's basically headers and a URL. But nevertheless, if you need code for different things, you can. You can go back to curl, which is kind of funny because that's what we imported.
It's all
JavaScript.
like cleaned up now. Oh,
Yeah.
we have a question from Nick as well in the chat, which is like, are there open source alternatives for Postman? Do we know? I don't
Um,
know.
that's a great question. The other app that I've played with before is Rapid API, which I don't know if it's open source or not. It's probably another. Is it another Electron app? I think it is. I think it's yet another Electron app. Oh, maybe it's not Electron. Command Plus is not working. So Rapid API is a similar app. I think there might be some Mac ones that are at least not Postman. I feel like there's one more that I played with once, but I couldn't find it again. So Rapid API is another one that you can use, which I believe has a Windows version as well. I don't know if
Adam is
any of
saying
these.
insomnia.
There you go. Insomnia.
I don't know what
So
that is.
there are plenty of
Thanks,
them.
Adam.
To me, the trick is can it generate the code for me? Because it's kind of just very convenient to have that ability to generate the code. All right, so let's see if I can get a Jupyter
But
notebook
you
open
could
here.
just like look at the curl and construct it
You
yourself
could look at the curl and
in
click it yourself.
header or yeah, which is
Um,
often where I hit a barrier because I'm like, I'm clearly doing this wrong. Or
I
I'll get a
am
response I don't understand.
firing up a Jupyter server here.
All right, cool.
And once again, everyone can see all of my directory structure. That's fun. One second. Let me just open up a single
That's okay.
a
I
single thing
so
here.
the oh great, Dan just put a insomnia.rest link in the chat for us. And this is like the way that I prefer to do things also because I like to be precise about where I'm finding things. And I sometimes, if I'm in Chrome or something else, it's not in the same spot. And I figure this is a good point to like stop and say that is in Safari, we opened up, we did the right click inspect, and it's underneath this like nice folder structure for us. But often when I'm in Chrome, I have to go to the network tab to the XHR where it's fetching or it's like fetch slash XHR. And sometimes this payload is in different places and you really have to click around.
Yeah, so we got time. Let's just look at quickly what it looks like in Chrome since a lot of people use Chrome. Um, so if you were to do this in Chrome, inspect, refresh. I never hit Command R. Libby keeps telling me to just use a keyboard shortcut, and I always hit
I'm a
Command.
keyboard shortcut person, I know.
So here we go with sources. Didn't you say with sources in network,
It's
XHR.
network and then
There you go. And so there it
fetch.x.
is. So here's the same thing, right? And you
Yeah.
just have to kind of be comfortable poking around. Once you do it once with whatever browser you prefer, you'll kind of get used to looking for it. So here's the same data, once again, and you can right click and copy as curl. There you
Yep,
go.
there you
I
go.
don't see a
The
save. I don't see
the
a save.
harder thing is like it's not yeah, there's no save, it's copy. So I ended up just I paste it into
Yeah.
a text doc and go from there. Or I'll save it as a .json.
Yeah. So you get the idea. All right. So now we're over here in There's so many. I cleaned up my windows and now it's already a window
You
chaos. It
can
took me that
close
long.
the Chrome.
Yeah, let's close Chrome. That's a good idea. Let's at least hide Chrome. Hide.
Get out of here, Chrome.
All right, and then we'll go ahead and
I
close
use
this.
Chrome.
It's already seen it.
Everybody hates me for it.
All right, so here we are. We've done the same thing, but now we have this response.json, which is going to be a dictionary. So let's just do response. Oops, interesting. Did we finally get rate limited? What happened?
Uh-oh, we might have the code defaults to something that's like requests something or not response. Do we need to change it to
Oh, it's actually under
response.json?
response. Let's see. What's that JSON? Oh, it's very mad at me. Maybe I did need some of those cookies. Maybe I was wrong. So let's go back to Postman. Let's turn my cookies back on and my refer back on. Let's not get Swift code, but let's get Python requests. Let's copy this. Let's come back over here, put that in there. Let's see. So is this gonna work? Oh, it's really not happy with me. What I
Oh
do here?
no.
Maybe it's my
Everyone's seeing in real time the things that are going to happen when you're trying to do this on your own.
I mean, it seems to be working. There we go. I think I was using an old version of Python. Maybe that's the problem. All right, so now here we go. So now here we have a bunch of, for response.json, basically will parse the JSON for you if you're using requests in Python. And so this is now a giant dictionary. So I'll just call this
But the thing that
DB.
it prints for you at the end of your code is not response.json. You have to change that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true. It'll do response.text, which will just give you the raw string. And but
Yes.
response.json, if you're using requests in Python, will basically turn that basically essentially import the JSON library and turn it into a giant dictionary for you. So now we have a giant dictionary called game feed, and now we can look at the keys and we see all these things, and maybe we can look at um, home team data and see what's in there. And then you can start playing around with it and trying to figure out what you want. To me, what's interesting is the probabilities. So I've looked at this data before. Um, so let's see. Now just basically a JSON parsing. You have to decide what you want to do, what stuff you care about. I think we liked scoreboard, right? Scoreboard had some fun stuff
Yeah.
in it. And
Oh,
then
and David is asking if anybody knows of a better R package for JSON, like to TSV or JSON to CSV other than JSONlite. JSONlite's what I use. Does anybody use anything different? Let me know in the Discord chat. And also, I really like if you're parsing JSON in RStudio, you open up your JSON object and it gives you this nice little like nested structure with little drop downs that you can open. It's like nice and visual. Highly recommend. That's what I
yes.
use.
So at some point you're going to have to, depending on what data you get, it might be a very simple structure, which is just a nice list of something that you want. It might be more complicated. Where, for example, what I really find interesting in this data is the stuff that's making these probability graphs, right? I think that's kind of fun, right? Because you have this probability of the who's going to win going up and down, and so that's kind of what I would be interested in grabbing, right? So I would have to go in find where this because there's only one game, right? This is a single. This is this, but I believe we're getting the information just in a single game from a single day. So we'd go in and try and find that data and turn it into something and turn it into a data frame or what have you. But it might be in stats, not states, stats. So there they are. We want WPA. We want game WPA. So now we have a list of dictionaries, and that's what you need to do something like turn into a data frame, right? So now we have a data frame, right? Home team, away team, win probability. Basically, it's a real-time estimate from the MLB computers as to how likely one team is to win the game or not, based on the score and the inning, etc., and the situation usually. So, that is essentially the technique, right? And we can now apply this technique to a variety of websites and see what data is out there, right? Um, it's to be honest with you, the getting the JSON is probably once you figure it out, is a pretty easy step. Then there's like traversing the JSON structure, which is like dictionaries and lists of dictionaries and lists of dictionaries. And sometimes, like for example, there is an actual official API from Virginia legislature that like returns like it's hard to describe, but essentially there's a list buried down in there that I want, but I also want identifying keys from above that tell me like what bill this is or whatever and what the votes are. And so I have to end up doing this elaborate dance of like extracting this list and then pulling in keys from the just one or two levels above I would love to build some kind of universal JSON smart parser thing that will like kind of do that for you, but I haven't. It's so hard. I haven't figured out how to do it. Let's look at another one. Here's the Massachusetts lottery. Powerball's big. If anyone is yeah, excited about Powerball. Um, so let's
Oh
look at.
yeah, we have Ryan in the chat said that there is another package that I'm gonna say is yyjsonr, like letter Y, JSONR. I've never used it, but it exists, and we should go investigate it.
It's cool. So we're still getting fetches. We're not getting in Safari anyway, but we're getting interesting things like hot and cold numbers and cold numbers. And you can see a lot of stuff from a lot of stuff
What?
that you're seeing on the screen here is actually a bunch of JSON. We have upcoming draw dates, draw schedules, the numbers of the latest draw, things like that. Maybe we're interested in like instant games. We're seeing this thing pop up. Is that showing up over here? And yeah, sort of. Here we got a games dictionary that tells you all the different, that's showing, basically, I think it's everything that's here is now kind of rendering here. So maybe you were curious about these images or whatever. Have I ever potentially done this for a lottery website before? Maybe I have. Um, so this is like showing like kind of all the different prizes and different things. So you could play with that too. So in the same deal, right? You could copy as curl, go over to Postman or RapidXR, your favorite app, generate the code, switch to code base, play around with it, automate it. Um, so that is kind of the recipe. Does anyone Libby, what do you think we should do? Should we try some more websites? Should we take more questions?
Yeah, I would love to take questions. Just remind everybody that you can ask questions and stop us when we're going very, very quickly through things and potentially go through just like another round of this and be messy and have it, cause problems. This is how if you've ever seen in the last couple of years, I created like an ICS file that was of the POSITconf schedule. Schedules are usually JSON objects somewhere, and you can go scrape them and do stuff with them. I'm always like, oh, I wish that there was like a Google Calendar file that I could use that I could just upload and have all of the events separated and all of the talks separated and all of their like abstracts and stuff in there so that I can choose between them. And so this method is how I did that for the past couple of years. I do have a video probably on YouTube somewhere of how I did that the first year. And then the important lesson that I learned was I went back the next year to do it, and the JSON structure was completely different. So I could not completely reuse all of my code. Yeah, even though it was like the same website. So there are always going to be challenges, and this is definitely not something that you're gonna set up and like Marcus said, like build a thriving business on something that will just be plug and play forever. Um, I,
So go ahead,
yeah,
Lee.
no, I was gonna say it's just like be okay with the manual part of this,
Yeah.
um, and you'll be all right.
The only thing I actually automate with this is it is my I'll go ahead and show off. It's this site. So for the Virginia Lottery, a few years ago, I built out, and this is like before I even knew about Shiny and Dash and all these things. I built out this kind of manual. Where is it? Scratch off this. This manual site that's like a bunch of Jinja templates that I like wrote myself, and it actually mostly does beautiful soup stuff and scrapes various scratch off web pages for the lottery, for the Virginia lottery, the Virginia scratch off things. But like, see this image here, and like this, just I needed to know what were all the games because like the euro was predictable based on this number that I needed to scrape, but I didn't know what the list of active games was. And so, sure enough, somewhere on the Virginia Lottery website is a tiny little JSON list. When you go to look at all the list of scratchers, much like I was showing in the Massachusetts site, um, is a list. And so I hit that list once a day, right, to make sure I have like a new games. I know if there's a new game or not, and so I know what to scrape, right? And all that runs once a day, right? And so far, still works. But what I'm doing is I'm looking at the ratio of unclaimed to claimed tickets and trying to see which games are the best deal. None of them are a good deal, but like which one is
None of them are a good deal.
which one is the
Wait,
best?
so
Every now and then you do get positive expectation value, but right now it looks like we don't have any games with a positive expectation value. This is
did
the
I
closest
miss
one.
the way that you schedule that to run every day?
So I have a server in DigitalOcean that hosts
Oh,
all of
okay.
my website, all of my Dash apps, formerly a Shiny server, and it also has Cron, and so I
Okay.
sometimes I run these on my own Mac because my Mac Mini never turns off. So sometimes if it's more computationally intensive, I'll just spin up a cron job on my Mac at home. Like for example, I use some language model stuff, like the small ones, like sentence transformers that I talked about in PositConf, and those that's too much to run on my little DigitalOcean server, so I'll run those on my Mac and push them up to wherever that data needs to go. Oh, but I was going to say is there's an advanced if you really want to get advanced about this. For example, I mentioned that I have this the Kia website has stuff that I want for myself. It's my own data, right? And so that is obviously not accessible unless you're logged in. Well, the way it knows if you're logged in is a session cookie, and if you have something like RookiePie, which is an advanced, this again, I don't know if this exists for R or anything like it, but RookiePie, if you're logged into basically if it only works for Firefox, it says it works for everything. If you're logged in Firefox, RookiePie can see all the cookies for a site that's from Firefox. So I can log into the website in Firefox, and then I can run my script. RookiePie goes and grabs the cookies I need, and then does all this request stuff that I was showing you, and gets the data I want and the way I want it. So if you're looking for advanced like tactics for doing stuff for like sites that you log into, and you don't want to manually be cutting and pasting cookies every time you use it, RookiePie potentially might help you. It claims it works for all the browsers. I've only actually got it to work for Firefox. I'm starting to wonder if it should work for Firefox, because that means that your cookies are sitting in a text file somewhere on your computer. But nevertheless, it works. I use it. So RookiePie, and maybe there are other things like if you search for cookies, you'll find a bunch of packages, and maybe there's similar ones for R and another one for Python or for R. Um,
Okay.
so
I
you had an idea though. Sorry, I cut you off there.
I had a question because I put it in the chat. Like, what are some websites that we could attempt to snoop to show how hard
Oh,
they are?
you're asking the community. That's great.
Yes. And one of them that's really, really hard. The first one that got mentioned was LinkedIn. So things that need a login are hard, but LinkedIn is hard for multiple reasons. It's just really, really locked down. But also, like, Marcus would have to log in and show his like personal stuff in LinkedIn. I'm not sure
Yeah,
how much he wants to do that.
logged in websites are tough, but they do usually have similar things. But yeah,
Yeah,
then the copies become really important. Another one that I
but
have used before is the CNN election data, right? So here is now you actually see it under XHR, right? And so here's some results from Virginia from we had elections in November, and you can see that all these different hits, the different rate every race is a different link basically. AGBA, lieutenant, attorney general, lieutenant governor, I'm sure, I guess GG is governor. And so this is similar thing, and you can get it. I think this is like full data by county, right? So you could probably download this from the county, but this is a nice JSONified version. Same deal, right? You can copy as curl. You can bring over to Postman or Insomnia or your favorite thing. Import it, get it. This one actually even has a little secret API key here. And then you can do the same thing. So doesn't like this one. Interesting.
oh, it's good to point out that when you paste in to Postman, you are switching to the headers tab. There's
Oh
like
yeah.
6 little tabs down there. No, more than 6, 7. Did we hit one that's not going to let
Yeah,
us?
we maybe the 3 or 4 not modified. Interesting. And I think it's not sending the data. It's just telling us, oh, you don't need to get this data again. So I'm gonna have to do something to say, no, really, give me the data.
To like tell
Um,
it that you want to refresh.
yeah,
We
yeah,
had a
exactly.
lot of suggestions like Reddit. Reddit is also, they've made it super hard. Lauren says ESPN might be a good
Oh,
one.
ESPN could
And
be a good one.
SeatGeek. What is SeatGeek, Ryan? Ryan also made the point. A lot of websites that don't want you to scrape their stuff are going to
Yeah,
change their endpoint URLs pretty frequently so that you cannot programmatically go through because it's almost like a revolving what is it called? When you VPN. They're like, we're just gonna make our IP not static and you can't hit us.
yeah.
All
So
right,
like
so we're on ESPN.
we're on ESPN. We are looking for things and not. There we go. Here's some fetches. Not seeing a lot of times. Obviously, some of the stuff you'll see in here is not useful at all, right? Like you're going to see JavaScript and images.
Yeah.
Here's some XHRs, and some of them they'll be data, but you were like, well, I don't really care about this, right? Um, so you just have to look through. It's hit or miss. Like sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you'll be like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Sometimes you're like, ugh, I don't care about this. Like this is not. This is just like this is information about the ads they put in the ad carousel. Like I don't really care. Let's look at Aaron Judge. Maybe we'll get some data.
So much of what I wade through when I'm doing this is ads
Yeah.
and like underlying information for ads.
Yes, that's all tucked away in there. Um, with a lot of
How do
etc
you know that
requests.
when you're finding JSON? Because like when I'm looking visually, I can see the JavaScript, it's like JS, and in other browsers it looks different.
Yeah.
But how do you know from just like the file structure that you're clicking that like this
I
might be
don't I
JSON?
well this one says JSON, so I kind of know that one's JSON, but that's not working. But I mean, it usually JSON looks like this. It's like got a kind of like a Python dictionary or whatever. So I just kind of click through things, and like this is HTML, right? This is JSON. This is I don't know what this is. It's some kind of list of audio codecs. So that's not anything. That's an MP4 file. So you just have to kind of keep looking. And also you can look. Also you can see that on here is the domain, right? So like if the domain is whatever this is, and it's an MP4A, you probably that's not going to be JSON, right? This is some kind of what do you call it? Content delivery network audio file or whatever. So it looks like it looks like ESPN has a ton of XLeChart requests, and there's almost so many as that it's impossible to tell what the heck any of these things are. Doesn't look like they have a lot of data
I have
in.
found that the bigger the website, the more stuff is crammed
Yeah,
in there. And so sometimes a smaller website that's a simpler website,
yeah,
you will have more luck with. But
exactly.
the logging in thing is not always a barrier. So like the Kia stuff, I'm sure that you have to log into that,
No,
right?
you absolutely do. Yeah.
So that's a instance where like you can totally get in there. I recommend just trying this. Like I'm interested in this data. It could be data about you. You could need to log in and try it.
So here's another.
Um, Isabella
I'm
asked
in
if we
it.
can scrape YouTube.
YouTube.
YouTube rate limits you so fast though, you gotta
Yeah.
be careful.
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of people are trying to write all kinds of things to like help you, like either download YouTube videos or playing without ads. And so I don't really know if there's a lot of data to scrape there, right? I mean, I tend to try this when I basically see a table on the screen, and I don't want to
Hmm.
scrape the table. I would rather
What
just
about
get the underlying data.
Wikipedia?
Wikipedia has an underlying, it's definitely a lot of text, right? I don't know. Are the tables in Wikipedia
I
constructed?
feel like the tables are pretty easy or sometimes easy to scrape on Beautiful Soup, but then sometimes I absolutely fail. Um, yeah, Dan says
Yeah,
Wikipedia ends up being pretty easy with CSS selectors.
there you go.
I think it
This
depends
looks
on
like
how
it's
the
client
tables
side.
are constructed.
I mean, this looks like it's server side. I don't think these are XHR requests because it's all about where do they make the tables. So they construct the tables with JavaScript on your computer, or do they construct them on the server? Because they construct them on the server, you just download the page directly, and then you use Beautiful Soup or whatever your favorite HTML parsing library is. It's when they don't it's when they don't do they're going to have to send the data as JSON, and then you have a chance to get it. I mean, a fun one that I like is, and this is something I do with my friends a lot, is we play cards on CardsMania, and let's see if it's going to work or not. There we go. So I realized a long time ago, this is a game I played with my friends a while back, um, uh, that there is a hidden JSON structure in the game history. So let's see, sources, XHR. Why is that working? It should be here. I need to click on this. There we go. So this ridiculous JSON structure is basically the entire history of this game of Oh Hell that we play. And so I wrote a bunch of code to parse all this because this is like telling you what order you play the cards in. This is the Queen of Hearts. This is the King of Spades, or whatever. And then I built a whole website around it for my colleagues and I to analyze how well or not so well we did when we were playing against each other in cards. Um, so that might have been the start of my whole journey of JSON inspecting, trying to find hidden data structures. Um, that one we just basically do it in the browser, and then we have a interface to upload the file, and then I go through and parse it all.
Yeah, I will say just for anybody who is watching and is not in the Discord chatting, I thought I would give some updates on what's happening there. There are lots of questions about like YouTube. Could we scrape YouTube? And there are a lot of ways to do this. YouTube has its own API. You can just sign up for an API key and go look through stuff. But also, like, there is an API. I mean, there's a transcript package for Python, but it's gonna like figure out that you're not a browser pretty quickly and it's gonna block your API and you have to like use a proxy to get around that. There's instructions for it, but it can be really complicated. I really suggest like just going through the legit API. Um, and then someone had asked about allrecipes.com, which I think is a great suggestion because I wonder how they set things up. All recipes might be one that's like Wikipedia where it's like built on
Server
this
side,
side,
yeah.
on server side.
I would guess it's just a bunch of static text that they generate in like a CMS or something, right? As opposed to like a bunch of data-driven things. Let's see.
Sometimes it can
Uh,
depend on how the website is organized too, on how pre-packaged their data is for you in JSON format. Like whether or not you get one recipe or you can access like all the recipes in nice nested JSON, you'd be surprised sometimes it's
it looks like there's a little quick one just tells to just like creates like some images. Like, see, this is JSON, but it's nothing useful, right? It's like
right.
links to SVG files, and then this is just JavaScript. I mean, the more text there is, the less likely they are to I mean, the reason why they like to do server-side rendering of tables, and especially pretty tables, is because I'm guessing it's more performant to just, here's a big JSON structure of numbers, you on your site, your computer with its, you know, CPU and memory or whatever, take those numbers and turn it into this pretty table, right,
Right.
locally on your computer. So I think that is the impetus for this kind of, back end. You hear a lot about back end and front end developers. Well, the front end developers are writing the JavaScript that makes a pretty site, and the back end people are making the servers that send you all of this JSON data.
We mentioned Wikipedia. Jason says that there is a Wikipedia R package, which I have never used before. But that's like the good thing about having a website that actually has a dedicated API for it too, is like sometimes people have built wrappers for you so you can just access stuff. And then someone had also said, Isabella said that there is a Goji Plus package by Goji Plus called Tuber, which has like a Git captions thing for YouTube. So you could go explore that. I will also say that the Ragnar package is, I think, maybe going to get an update that will help you more easily grab YouTube captions. Don't quote me on that. If it doesn't happen, I'm sorry, but yeah, watch the like Ragnar package space because I myself really, really want to build rags on YouTube like transcripts. That would be amazing. What are we looking at now? Is this SeatGeek?
This
This was
is
Ryan's
geek. I
suggestion.
was I was looking at the chat trying to see. Okay, trying to see. Let me refresh
I don't
this.
even know what SeatGeek is. Is this for tickets to
It's
concerts?
second. Yes, it's like a secondary ticket market sort of deal. Like you can sell your tickets on there. Yeah, there's
Oh,
some interesting stuff here. We got whatever this looks like some event
so this is not
event
like
ID link
Ticketmaster. This
structure.
is like
This looks
eBay for
interesting.
tickets.
And then there's an affordable events endpoint, right? Then looks like it has more things, like some looks like some basketball games. Um, and then we've got there's quite a few things here. It's worth playing with if you're interested in this sort of thing. Um,
I think this one might be interesting.
yeah.
Feel like there's all kinds of frustration around the ticket prices lately and ticket availability.
Someone on the chat was saying they had scraped something to help them figure something. What was that? Someone in one of the early posts. Let me go back to the beginning of the day.
Of our wild chat. Ryan, it's a Ticketmaster alternative, or is it like a reseller? Can you resell on Ticketmaster? Wild. And Ryan said that he just did a Ragnar run, so hearing Ragnar is giving him some PTSD. Our family has a ranch where we actually host
Oh,
Ragnar runs.
it was Kevin. He said he scraped used car websites. Hey, I work at CarMax. I don't know if I approve of this. So you could get a decent so you could get a decent deal on his truck. I mean, there are. This is something that businesses do deal with. You do see, if you are a business, you don't really want people scraping all the prices off your site.
Right.
But if you are a business, you would like to scrape all the prices on your competitor's site. So it is a tension there of, you would like to know what your competitors are doing. but you don't really want people to know what you're doing. But of course, I mean, it's kind of hard to stop, right? There's a meme somewhere about API users versus website scrapers. Let's see if I can find it.
What are the benefits of using this over going straight to something like Beautiful Soup? Or so you're like, okay, I have this website that I want to scrape, and you don't know anything about this inspect side. You're just like, I just know that I want the data off of this website, and I see some tables and graphs, and I think they're being made by data. What's the advantage of doing this versus hopping straight into something like Beautiful
Well,
Soup?
the one is that the data is, if you do this way, the data is structured, right? You don't have to, you're not trying to figure out, find every TD cell. I don't know if people use Beautiful Soup, but like I mean, Pandas has a built-in like find table on a website thing, so that
Right.
sometimes can work. But fundamentally, the main thing is that if you try and just download, a website, you just get a link to a website you can read, and you try and just download that directly with requests or header or whatever, there won't be anything there because you don't have JavaScript running to ingest the data and assemble it. So you have to do something like Selenium or whatever, which is essentially running a web browser for you. The web browser is downloading the thing. It's the JavaScript is turning it into Beautiful Soup, and then you were turning it back into data. So why go from data to HTML back to data when you can just go straight from data to data? That's kind of my philosophy. Again, there's
Right.
some sites where there is no data stream where the server is sending you the table, in which case you do have to kind of scrape it the other way. So I think baseball references like that, for example, I was trying to figure out, people were saying that one of the World Series games was like one of the best games ever. And you can take that win probability, kind of zigzag and like integrate it and figure out like basically how crazy the game was by how much swings there are. And so I was trying to do that. And I think I had to do old school Beautiful Soup parsing because I don't think there was like a API call that they were doing, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like getting getting data off the web is kind of like knowing more than one language. It's really useful to know how to do it in more than one way because there's not one thing that's going to work across everything. I did want to point out one more time, Ryan had put it in the chat. I will put it back in the chat again that if you are using R, the rvest package did not have this initially, but it is new and exciting, and it's the read HTML live function, which does what Marcus just described Selenium does. When you run this, it opens a headless browser on the underside for you, pretends that it's Chrome using Chrome mode, I think, and then that way it can like actively look at something that before you wouldn't be able to, right? You were be trying to get something that's static, but you were looking at something that's live. You're getting an error. You have to use Selenium to do this. You can now do it in just RVest, which is really exciting. So definitely go check that out. Samer Hijazi has a YouTube video about this. He put out a little update. That's how I learned about it. So definitely go check his YouTube channel, and I'll see if I can find his channel and link it.
I'm looking through the chat. See if there's anything interesting.
Um, I'm gonna go find
Oh,
that.
sorry, Isabel. I now see Isabel saying to make the Postman window larger, and it's too late.
I think we did. I think we did.
Okay,
And we
good.
we checked back in and we were like, hey, it's working now.
Yeah. I don't know why this one isn't working. I'm a little upset that. Oh, there we go. There's some data here. I guess we hit the refresh limit. So now you can see the structured data from this governor from, I think it's gonna be every race. Anyway, the recent elections here. I've used this one before too. It actually even says politics.api.cnn.io, and it's so clear. It's obviously an API. Um,
You said that you have a website where you do stuff for Virginia races?
yeah. So they actually have a real API, so I don't have to scrape.
Oh, okay.
I used
You
to have
don't
to
have to be
I used to have
sneaky.
to scrape things. It's for legislation. It's called recorded vote. But I don't have to pack anything. I used to have to scrape a couple of pages, but with the new API, I don't have to anymore. So all this is coming from a real API. I mean, I hit it once a day or whatever. This is all coming from a real API. This is also probably hard to see. I just clicked
Ryan
OK.
had asked if the, I guess the read HTML live works on shinyapps.io/posit cloud because our Selenium didn't work. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're having to run Selenium, I feel like you've lost. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's necessary if you really need like a particular site. But uh, like if you're running a headless browser and you're turning and you basically need the JavaScript to run, then I feel like there's probably some hidden data structure there that you'd rather tap into instead. And that's not necessarily always true, but it feels like I trying to avoid Selenium, right? If I can, I either want to just use request.get to beautiful soup, or I want to go look for the hidden API. Um, um, I try to avoid. I personally, I don't think I think the last time I tried to get Selenium to run, I wouldn't. It was complaining about something, and so I didn't get very far.
I
But
definitely
maybe other
feel
people
as
have. Maybe
well.
I'm just a bad luck. I have like a not
Dan says, +1 if you're using Selenium, prepare for sad. That's why this is so like learning how to dig through these tabs and stuff is so, so valuable because you can avoid that roadblock of
yeah.
sad sometimes.
I like how four different people said Electron when I was trying to remember what Electron was called.
Yeah, everybody figured it out. Well, I wanted to see if I could like log into LinkedIn
You can go for
and not show you guys all of my stuff.
it.
I think that I can as long as I don't click anything. And then I can show you guys what it actually looks like if I do attempt. Okay, because I have no shame and I don't really mind people seeing my stuff. All right, let me share my screen really quickly. I know that we're at the end and just attempt. Marcus can be my guide. All right, I'm on Chrome. Nobody hate me. Um, I'm going to inspect and then I'm going to go to the network tab here.
The thing that might be interesting is like click on like your network or something. Like click on my network to see all the people you're connected to. If you're willing to do that, because that might have some interesting
Oh, wow.
HR
Look at all
tags.
the things. Notice as I'm like going down and it's loading because you have to load more, you're going to get more. So you're not going to get the full like,
Yeah, but there might be a paginated. So here's another trick which I didn't talk to you about. I should have thought about this more. So sometimes you will do something and you'll find an API endpoint and you'll copy it and it'll only show you 50 results and you're like, "Oh, that's weird." But if you start
yeah,
fiddling
paginated.
with the request and the payload, you might be able to like work around that limit, right? It might have a setting like for, you know,
A max. Yeah, it
yeah,
might have a max or a limit that you can
yeah,
change.
yeah.
Um, and if we go back to like the regular page here, and I'm going to do my Command R to refresh.
There's
Hey,
a lot of
Josh Summer,
GraphQL. Why don't you click on
he's
one of those
going to be with
GraphQL ones so
us.
people can see the hellscape that is GraphQL. Sorry. The
Oh no, it's all like it's
well,
this way.
that's just JSON. If you click on preview, I think that'll look okay. Well, not that okay. But
It's still, yeah,
copy the actual link. Like copy the what do you call it?
this one.
No, sorry, get the curl command for that one.
You're
Just
gonna have to guide me.
right click on one of the GraphQL query things on the left, right click on that and then copy as curl, right?
Okay.
Because
Oh wait,
GraphQL is like a weird like SQL-like
I don't
thing
have
that
anywhere to stick this.
and just put it in a text file somewhere or we can see what GraphQL looks like. GraphQL, I am not a fan of GraphQL. Does anyone in the chat like GraphQL?
I have no opinion on GraphQL. Whoa, what am I looking at? Why is this so ugly?
That's an excellent question. Is it by those all cookies?
This is the cookie. This is all
It's a
cookie.
lot of cookies.
Look, if I got rid of that. So how many
I'm trying
cookies
to
is
see where the
LinkedIn
actual payload
using?
is. I'm trying to see what the actual payload looks like. Can you scroll down a minute?
Yeah.
I don't actually see a payload. It's so weird. Anyway, GraphQL is kind of this quasi SQL-like language that you can um, that some APIs use. And so instead of there being like a JSON payload or a bunch of question marks in the URL, there's like this kind of quasi SQL JSON language you have to write. Um, and I really don't like it.
Yeah.
Uh,
But if you do hit something paginated, and YouTube's API is a great example, it's like 50 per page or whatever. It's going to give you a token that corresponds to the next page. And then when you write your loops or whatever you're doing, you just have it take that token for the next page and insert it into the next page token of whatever your API call is, and you can page through it that way. Don't let that stop you. Like use ChatGPT to help you navigate the pagination stuff and understand it. That had really, really slowed me down when I was first hitting APIs. I was like, I hate pagination. It drives me crazy. It's so funny that Josh Starmer was the one that popped up on LinkedIn because he's going to join us on the Hangout on Thursday. If you're a Josh
Yay.
Starmer fan, come hang out with us on Thursday. Last Hangout of the year. It's going to be fun.